Maybe it's because I wasn't on there.
That is probably why that was a good video.
It's a good video. I wasn't in there, so you know.
So, well, good day. Welcome to another episode of the RoadFS Detail Bookie Podcast. Dude, I cannot believe it is on the edge of summer. It is heating up, and it's going to be pretty epic. So,
yeah, busy time of the year for all of our clients and all of your clients. And today we have a legend in the paint touch-up world.
Can you say legend?
That's right.
Dairy?
That's right. Mr. Tony Pando, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, guys. Jody, Rod, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you. You know, I can't believe we're doing this. I'm so grateful because I've seen you at so many shows, different types of shows. I mean, my gosh, it runs the gamut. And to be able to actually be live with you doing this podcast, we're super grateful on behalf of Dr. Color Chip. Thank you, and look forward to spending some time. I was nervous, you know, when I was had the opportunity. Jody was like, I'm like, what do I need? Is there an agenda or what am I? And he goes, no, man, it's just three guys talking. And I'm like, oh, I can do that.
It's funny because somebody asked us once, they're like, how have you guys been doing this for we're almost to 600 episodes. And they're like, how do you guys do this? And I said, because we don't have an agenda. We just talk about the person and what they did and how they got there. And it's really fun for me when it's somebody like you that we've had a chance to work with for a number of years and actually use the products.
Yeah.
So for people that don't know, you've probably been living under a rock, but Dr. Color Chip, you've been doing this like over 20 years now. And the products have evolved in the 20 years. And it's gotten to the point where now your kits, you can see it behind you there, your kits are, they're really expansive. So how many, this is a question that somebody asked me when we told them we're going to have you on, how many different color variations have you put out? Do you know how many you've put out?
Well, heck, so we have two sides to our business. We have the do-it-yourself kits, right?
Yep.
We sell over 10,000 of those every month to Steve and Barbara, who might have whatever car, so a specific vehicle year, make, model, paint color code, color name, and they buy that single kit for their car. We've been doing that a long time. We have arguably the most highly recommended. Just go onto any of the AI, ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or whatever, and just ask it, and they'll tell you that our DIY kits are the most highly rated. And that all came from the Wall Street Journal back in 2006 when, unbeknownst to Dan McCool, who was the founder of Dr. Color Chip, it's a good story. He didn't even know that this was happening, but the Wall Street Journal had back then when people read newspapers, they did a weekend journal article about paint chip repair kits of all things. I mean, in the Wall Street Journal on a Saturday edition, and they said Dr. Color Chip hands down was the best kit, and that's what I call the aha moment that Dan had from starting in his garage. And so we went from selling 5 or 6 a day when the internet was just started to 80 or 100 or whatever it was, and that was the aha moment. But to answer your question specifically, in that category, we have 175,000 or more. At least 175,000 vehicle year, make, model, paint, color code, color name formulations in our computerized database. And we now make the paint by computer, not by hand. So, some of the smaller mom and pop type people, they're going to be making it by hand, and you get a lot of errors, and you can have mismatched colors and stuff, but everything we do is all done by computers and whatnot. And so we have about 175,000. Now, with that said, the system behind me, that's one of our commercial systems. So with RoadFS, being the all-in-one CRM for detailers and professionals, you work with a lot of the professionals out there. So that would be considered a professional system, right? And that's for somebody who's going to bolt this onto their business and want to have the ability and the opportunity to service the cars that they're servicing, right? And so what I always tell people is I say, 8 out of 10 cars have chips and scratches. And in the opening video that he was not on, that you said, I recognize a few of those guys in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that guy. But anyhow, so you can bolt this onto your business, and if 8 out of 10 cars have chips and scratches, 7 out of those 8 people that have those retail cars, they're afraid to do it. They don't know how to do it, or they
Yep.
had a bad experience with one of those paint pens, right? And
Yeah. Right.
there's a sure opportunity to add on, upsell, or quite frankly, help your customer. You put on your sales sheet paint chip repair starting at $199, and if it's got 5 or 6 chips or even 8 chips, that's going to take you less than say 10 minutes, maybe 15 at the top. And you pat the person on the shoulder and you say, Mr. Jones or Mrs. Jones, I notice you have those chips. And remember, they're afraid to do it. They don't know how to do it. They haven't experience with a paint pen. You pat them on the shoulder and you say, it's usually $199, but I'm a commercial user for Dr. Color Chip. You know what? I can do that repair for you. I'll do it for $140. Now they feel they're getting a good deal. They don't have to do it, and now your tech just made $140 for 10 or 15 minutes worth of work.
Yeah.
In that world, that is our most popular. That's a hybrid color system. We start as low as 30 and go all the way up to 147, because what we have found through our research and our data over 24 years, there's 175,000 formulas in our database. But what we do is we reverse engineer all of the most popular colors for the last 5 to 7 years especially, and we build color ranges or color libraries that there's about 147 colors is all that your eye can discern the difference, right?
Right.
So we start as small as an entry level 30 color system and go all the way up to 147, which is our kind of big Mac Daddy. I designed that for a lot of the PDR people because they like those flex boxes. And you're at Mobile Tech Expo and these PDR people are walking around and you have a flex box in your booth and it's like a giant magnet, and they want everything with the flex boxes. But anyhow, yeah. So you figure 100 colors, right? 100 colors is really what's gonna cover over 90% of the colors of cars you see. It comes with things like a color reader. It's an app-based tool. You put it on the car. It tells you via an app on your phone which color to use in your system. So it's got a lot of really neat tools and bells and whistles, but it's all based on the Dr. Color Chip method, our proprietary paint, blending solution, and process. And that's the same whether it's a DIY kit or a commercial system. So it's a neat thing for those that make a decision to bolt it onto their business. And the incremental revenue, while let's just say it's $100 a car, worst case scenario, you do 40 cars, it's paid for it. Now the rest of the year, for people that can think more than tomorrow, if they think about
Right.
I know the stories. I've been around long enough to know that there's a lot of folks out there that have big dreams and aspirations, but it's hard to get from point A to point Z without going through all of this. So it can be a challenge, but if you have the right attitude, aptitude, and persistence, and make decisions and consistently work towards them, then you can have some success with this as a part of your business. Now, I'm not saying it's the one all be all. And, some people, like we were saying before we came online about, artisans versus entrepreneurs. Right. Some folks, they want to just make a car look good, smell good, take care of that car, take care of the customer, through your software. They are right on top of everything, and when it is, how it is, invoice, and so on and so forth. So that's huge. And so maybe they're an artisan, but what I always say is you can be the best detailer in the world. You can be in the Mike Phillips, the Rennie Doyles, the whatever category you want to call it, whoever it is. But if you've got that car all done and all shiny and looking good, and there's 4 or 5 stone chips on that hood, are you done with the detail?
Right.
So,
And the thing about that is if people train themselves on the system. Like we've been able to, like I said, we've been lucky enough to be at a couple of events with your guy, you, and seeing how the system actually works. And it's a specific system. It's not just this isn't like when you used to put your model cars together and you got a little bottle and you just dab it on with a toothpick. But you can learn how to do this to where you can be that artisan and use this as a way.
Sure.
Because I've seen cars that were beautiful cars that have a big old stone chip. Like you said, there's a gal, Esme, in the Netherlands. She does this all the time. She does paint touch-up. And it is part of it. It's not just an add-on. It's a premium service. She's turned it into a premium service. And when we had Doug
Reed,
when we were he was doing it and using this as a huge upsell in the dealership market. Because he'd go in and he'd take the car and he'd have that car for that whole afternoon or whatever. And like you said, it doesn't take an afternoon to do it, but he gave it a really good opportunity to dry. And then if he needed to fill, if it was a very deep one, he could fill it again. He could sand it down. He could do whatever he needed to do. And so I like it because it is like you said, it's everybody's washed a car and thought it looked really good. And that's the best way you can pick out all the nicks and scratches is to wash the car. You're going to see every single one of them.
Every single one. Well, and I remember that first, because Doug Reed was the first time that I was exposed to Dr. Color Chip. Yeah. And we were rolling out RoadFS to him. He wanted us to come visit some of his guys to do a training. And he took me around to the back of a dealership, and the guy had his little Dr. Color Chip box. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? You're not detailing. And he walked me through the entire process. I'm like, dude, what a phenomenal add-on for a dealership. Because a lot of times, and what I noticed was he was only doing it on the driver's side. He didn't care about the passenger side. He just was picking the ones on the driver's side and on the hood. And it just was a quick $140, $150, whatever the number he was charging. And I'm like, man, this is smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the dealership work, if you're like a commercial user with our product, again, you've got a couple of avenues there. You can service auto spas, you can go to car clubs, you can do dealership work. Obviously you can do retail customer work. Retail customers, like I said, $199, your average ticket's at least $140, $160 for, let's just say, half an hour work. That's a pretty decent hourly rate. But for the dealerships, you're going to charge between $75 and $95 per car. But when you go to that dealership, if they've got 40 cars on the lot, you walk that lot and you write down the cars and you give them a list of 8 or 10 cars. Never be greedy, and don't do too many cars, because the accounting department at the dealership will say, what the heck are we paying, Tony Pando, $8,000 a month for? So don't ever be greedy, but having, you have 8 or 10 dealerships that you do this for. You show up, it's a milk run. And every time you go to a dealership, you're doing, say, 4 cars, at say $70 a car, for maybe a couple hours worth of work, and you guys are bringing up a really good point. And I just talked to a young man. I could get his name up in a second if I needed to, but he's a detailer. He loves detailing, but his detailing business is slow right now. And there's obviously competition. There's always price compression, all of that type of stuff. And he was like, I know about Dr. Color. This is just this week. I have to look up his name. But anyways, he was just like, I really think I'd like to invest in one of these systems. And he was very nervous because, remember, his times are tough right now. He's actually here in Florida. But anyways, he was like, times are tough on the detail world. And he also does PDR too. And he lost a couple of accounts is what it was. And he's just trying to think of ways to maneuver. And so he knew about us, and I've been talking to him. And a lot of times I'll just be a therapist as much as anything. And
we know what that's like.
Right. And so anyways, he's considering bringing in one of these systems, and focusing at least half of his time on dealership work. Because, at the end of the day, when you might be able to get on a monthly recurring thing with somebody to detail their car, but the margins aren't nearly as good. The volume's not nearly as good. And, and a perfect example is Mike Phillips. Obviously, I think most everybody knows who Mike Phillips is, one of our dear friends. I love him to death. I've known him for a long time. Love what he does and what he represents. And he told me many years ago, he said, Tony, 25 years ago, if I had known about Dr. Color Chip then, when I was really gearing up my detailing business, I probably would have preferred Dr. Color Chip just because of the back break and this and that. And then, you're always hunting. And I'm not saying, it's easy peasy to go get dealership work. My young nephew, who was 19 when he started, he's 22, 23 years old now. He's got 3 employees. He's in Utah and in Arizona. He's got probably 40 something dealerships. This kid is killing it. But when he got started, and I've had him, I've been really trying to mentor him. I've taken him to Mobile Tech Expo and put him on stage, at the classes and used him as a guinea pig to tell his story. And, his story, the best part is that he was like, when I started this, I knocked on dealership doors for 2.5 to 3 months. And everybody said, I got a guy. And so 2 things happened. Number one, instead of charging $75-$80, he went and said, I'll do it for $60, right? Which today we laugh about because he was like, I can't believe, in hindsight, I did that for $60.
Right.
But what he did do was he got his first account.
Yep.
And that account that he got has turned into be his number 1 account, because now they have 3 locations. He's bumped the price up to $75 or whatever. He does the most volume cars there. He's got the best relationship with them. So the moral of that story is you've got to start somewhere, right? And you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a great example of in a detailing industry, we talk all the time about don't race to the bottom with price. But if that's what gets you in the door at a dealership, you can always caveat it by saying, look, I'll tell you what, let me do this first one. I'll do it for $50 or $60 or whatever. And then they're going to see the value and then you can come in. There's so many people that are turned off by the dealership world. And I think it's the same thing as people that would be scared to try like the Dr. Color Chip system because they've never done it. Not everybody's into paint and they think it's this mysterious thing. And I know you formulate your paints a little differently. They're not like a typical, like if you take a painter and you go out and mix up paint that you're going to spray, it's really, really runny. You don't use that for touch up because it'll run right off the car. So you guys have formulated it to where if you learn how to do it, it can be really good. And like you said, we know people that make a killing. I mean,
Jamie Gonzalez,
7 figures.
Oh, J&G in Salt Lake City.
Yeah,
he's using our stuff. He's got, 4 or 5 systems at least. And I actually just emailed that guy today. He is dynamic.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
He's one of my favorite people. Yeah. He's probably been our customer for almost 10 years
over
now.
10 years now. But the thing about that is that he's willing to, I think just like in business, entrepreneurs are willing to reach out and kind of stretch themselves. But I think you have to do the same thing with your service offerings. You kind of have to stretch yourself and see what you can do. I remember when we first started doing this 17, 18 years ago, man, it was so niche. You either were a detailer or you were a bumper guy or you were a wheel guy or you were a touch-up gal or whatever, but you didn't do this overlap. And I think that's what people are realizing in this market. When it starts to get tough, you have to have more offerings than just one thing. If you're just the Ferrari detailer, you're going to struggle because the margins, like you were saying earlier, the margins are great on a Ferrari, but how many of those are available to you versus hitting 52 Hondas, right? Yeah. If you are at the Honda dealership and I'm working with you, I am buying every Honda color. I want all the Honda colors for the last 8 years, man. And I'm just going to park my butt at the Honda dealership. I'm going to have a tent and I'm going to go to town because I will make more money doing that because of the volume of cars coming in and out. The other thing people don't realize is if you go to a dealership and you tell them, hey, I charge you $75, you can tell the customer it's $85 and you're going to pick up $20 on everything I do. Those service writers are chomping at the bit to give you business because they're getting a kickback on it. And that is a really good way to do it. We know a ton of people that do this: headlight restoration, wheel repair, bumper thing, just all kinds of stuff, because now you have locked into that dealership because you're feeding somebody else a little bit on the side. And I'm going to caveat this by saying, make sure it's all above the table. You don't want to do this under the table and get yourself or somebody else in trouble.
No cash money, right?
Yeah, you got to talk to the service manager and make sure that they're okay doing that. But that's a really good way to do it. I mean, you know, when you're out there trying to pound on doors and get stuff, you got to stay above board. You got to make sure, because it won't last if you don't. But that's a great way. There's a ton of people that do that. You know,
you guys are preaching to the choir. I mean, service drive. I mean, you said the number you said blew my. No, like for paint chip repair, they're putting it at like $199, and the service writers are bumping it up to $249.
Oh yeah.
I mean, so on that side of the coin, and then going back to one thing that I think is so important is you couldn't be more correct when you're talking about what the world knows as touch-up paint, right?
Yep.
It has a connotation. It has a stigma. It has a history of 30, 40, 50 years of being something that, quite frankly, it's not. And I don't have one close by, but those paint pens, the thing about the paint pen is that has been the industry standard for touch-up for many, 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 many years. And the challenge with either the paint pen or a bottle of touch-up paint you get at the BMW dealership is the actual liquid in that pen or that bottle is not made for touch-up. The paint in there is made to be atomized or sprayed in a car, cooked in a booth, and so on and so forth. That paint is not made for touch-up. It's not. And so it has had a terrible reputation, a terrible stigma for so long because it's difficult to work with, takes forever to dry. You have paint blobs unless you're wet sanding and all that stuff. You know, I was telling you 5 chips in 10 minutes or less. 5 chips the old-fashioned way is a non-money maker. I can guarantee you, your detailers, your customers that you guys work with, I would say 8 out of 10 of them, if I walked up to them and I was their retail customer, I said, "Oh yeah, you know, my car looks great. Oh, I've got some chips there. Can you fix those chips for me?" No, I don't do that. I don't do that. You know, or tell you what, if you're a good customer, if you go get the paint at the dealership or you buy a Dr. Color Chip kit, I'll put it on for you. And that's what the industry is. And so to take that a step further, you also are exactly right about, you don't need to be a jack of all trades and master of none. However, if you're just detailing Ferraris, if you're just detailing high-end cars, there's a good chance you're not going to make it. You know, I've been on shows and talked to other people in my tenure, and you know, you make the money on the Camrys. You know, you make the money on the Camrys. You know, if you get a Ferrari or something like that once in a while, fine, great. Take some before and after pictures, make it look good. But man, if I was a detailer, my Facebook feed or my social or my website would have 500 Camrys, you know, and or soccer moms minivans.
Exactly.
You know, that, I mean, are we here to pump up our egos and try to feel good like I'm a Mr. whatever, or am I here to make money?
Right. And that's at the end of the day, the people that are doing really, really well there are a few. There's always going to be a few, the top cream of that crop that, man, that's all they do is high-end cars. And that's great. If you are that person, more power to you. But at some point, that is going to, there's only so many. There's finite number of Ferraris made every year. And again, the same thing. I've said this for 100 years, that when I was a mechanic, everybody wanted to work on the high-end cars. Man, I wanted to do hot rod stuff. I wanted to do this. But where you made the money was doing brakes on a Honda, because there's 250,000 of them made every year, and the brakes are going to wear out. Man, I'm the best Honda brake guy in the world, and I'm making tons of money doing it. And that's where is it production? What are you doing it for? Is it to boost your ego, or is it to make money?
Right. No, and you are what's it called? ACS certified, right?
ASC certified.
yeah.
ASC certified.
He's got the certification to
He's
prove
got
it.
the certs. Well, and what's interesting is, a couple years ago, we met Amber Hendrick and her husband. And, she really just leaned into, I'm going to be the mom detailer, right?
Man.
I'm going to lean into it. She created these little care packages for the kids and just really leaned into that. And ever since I had that conversation with her, it's amazing how many women that I've come in contact with that are in my wife's circle, and they either the headlights being scratchy bug the snot out of them, the interior of their car bug the snot out of them, and they hate it even if their taillights are scratched up, and it really bothers them if there's any stone chips. And I'm like, dude, you can market just around being the mom minivan queen or king, whatever you want to market it as, and you can make a killing, because every single woman that I've talked to is like, dude, if my car smells good and it feels good on the inside, I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And the greatest part about the care package, it has a little package of goldfish so that the car gets screwed up and comes back again.
That's little crumbs. I love it.
Add the crumbs right in there.
So you guys brought up a girl a little while ago, the young lady in the Netherlands. Is she one of your customers? Maybe, I don't know.
No, Esme's not. She's just a gal that I've met.
But that's her car. When I was in Milan at the DB Expo, she had driven over from the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And she's a really nice young lady and very professional.
Oh yeah.
Very professional and very personable. Yeah.
She's awesome.
And she does a number of services, and she's a good example of somebody that's taken that. She's really adopted the social media side of things to drive business to her. But she does videos of, it doesn't matter. I don't even remember the cars. Sometimes she gets high-end cars in there, but sometimes it's a Volkswagen Golf. And she treats it just like it's a Ferrari. She takes the videos and everything. So I think there's a number of ways to do what people are doing in the reconditioning industry. And I use this example. In 2020, when COVID hit, everybody's auto spa went to an automotive reconditioning center, because when COVID hit, nobody was taking their car to the auto spa. They just wanted it decontaminated. They wanted it clean. And that focus changed. And that's fine. We have to be adaptable like that. I think that's the way it goes. And it's interesting because you had mentioned something that I wanted to go back to, and that's the colors that you said your eye can see, right? So car-wise, as far as spraying, I don't know any other cars, but I know this because of a couple cars that I've painted since I've been doing this, that Chevy Victory Red on a 2007 Chevy truck has 43 variants. There are 43 distinct color variants.
You're talking 9260 Victory Red. General Motors.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yep. But about 41 of those, your eye can't tell the difference.
Right.
So, and that's the thing, is most stone chips or scratches are so small that you're not going to notice them. So I think people are afraid of that because they get this whole idea of, oh my gosh, it's a Volkswagen Arctic white. It's totally different than Toyota Tundra white. And you're like, on the computer, there's a couple more drops of something, but your eye is not going to tell.
And you're talking milligrams of milligrams. I mean, pentagram. I mean, it's so much. The drop is so small. Your eye absolutely can't tell the difference. Especially, and you put it perfectly, Rod. You're not painting a panel. You're painting a chip or a scratch. So your eye's going to be fine, 100%. Especially with our little handheld photospectrometer that you just put on the car. But that aside. I mean, we make a lot of colors, but one example is BMW 300 Alpine White, right? That is a steadfast BMW color, has been for 25 years, forever. And there's I don't know if it's 47, but there's a solid 20 or so. And the challenge was that car painted in Johannesburg Was it
Yep.
painted in Nashville? Was it painted in Mexico City? Where was it painted? You know, did the guy who painted the car, had he been drinking the night before you know, or was the ambient temperature, you know, I mean,
Oh yeah.
under a microscope, yeah, there's always differences from. I don't care if you go to BMW. You know, BMW. One of our best stories was BMW Kalahari Beige. If you go to the BMW dealership and you got a bottle of BMW Kalahari Beige for your car, it was like 14 shades off. I mean, it just didn't even match. And from the dealer, mind you. Now, what we have done is for many, many, many years is say, and BMW 300 Alpine White is like our prime example, is because there's all these variations, we know that sometimes if we send out a color to somebody, they're going to be like, wow, it's a little too dark or it's a little too light. That's why we've always guaranteed color match. And we just have the person send us a color. We'll lighten up the shade for them. That's fine. So we're happy to do that. And because we understand that. But then what we do is we've always just kept zeroing in on what the best shade is. So we now, after how many years, have a color of BMW 300 Alpine White that is cross-referenced to everything. It is the best match. Right.
Wow. Right. That's cool.
And so with that, in addition to that, the commercial systems, quite frankly, I don't care if it's 9260 Victory Red or whatever paint color code, because paint color code doesn't matter.
Right.
Because all that matters in those commercial systems is color match. And so I don't care if it's a BMW or a Porsche or a Yugo. If it's a bright red car, you're going to use one of 10 shades of red in your system and match it by eye. And that's what we've always said, is it was a match by eye system. But now with technology, here we are, 21st century, the little photo spectrometer, you just set that on the car and it tells you the color in your system, which is the one to start with. So it helps you with color match like that.
Yep,
and so,
exactly.
so yeah, no, but you're 100% right. I mean, yeah, I have it right here. I mean, what's that say? Fear, right? This is one of my keynotes, and you know, at the end of the day, fear is out there for all of us, and it's just a matter of how I attack my fears. And there's so much inherent fear in paint chip repair. You know, we've spent 24 years, you know, before AI, if you did a Google search, you know, organically, Dr. Color Chip is the highest rated paint chip repair product on Google for do-it-yourself kits. AI, you know, we are at the top of AI, whether it's Claude, whether it's Gemini, whether it's ChatGPT. And our product is highly rated because it has consistently been the best, and we consistently are evolving our company to make a better product. Hence, we just spent over $500,000 on these computer machines a year or two ago, that now that BMW Alpine White or whatever it is, now you don't even have anybody making it. Because remember, you can zero in your formula.
Yeah,
but if you have somebody putting in a drop, you know, there can be an error rate that's much higher. Now we just type it in the computer and it just spits it out. And so there's minimal errors and very much consistency. So, you know, that's why I'm talking to you guys today, is to try to continue to get the word out that, you know, not only does Dr. Color Chip love our customers, we want to talk to more customers. You know, we have a lot of the same friends. You guys have customers that use our product, and they use your product. But just to continue to be a Pied Piper about how our product is different, how our product is consistent. You know, we make product for some very large OEMs, and our product's literally out in space. You know, I can say it, I guess. You know, we make the product for SpaceX. They touch up the inside of the Dragon capsule with our product. You know, there's a lot of. I know, I love saying our product's literally out of this world.
That is really cool. No, that is awesome.
But yeah, it's good stuff.
So, couple questions about paint, because, you know, special interest. So there's a lot of new waterborne paints coming out. So people, again, let's hold up your notebook with the word fear on it. People are afraid of waterborne paints because it says waterborne, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's going to get wet. It's just going to wash off the car." Waterborne paint just means that the base coat is a waterborne product. It is not got a like a lacquer or something in it. The top coat is still not water based. It will not wash off. So how do you address that if somebody calls you up and says, "Hey, I work on a lot of, let's say, new Subarus, right? A new Subaru has a waterborne base coat." Is that a concern of yours? Are you formulating for that? And is your paint still the same base that it was, or are you changing these formulas?
So our paint is a 1K fast dry, solvent based, single stage with the clear in it. And so solvent based is what our product is.
Right.
There is no good, there's no good water-based touch-up paint. There's not.
Nope.
It doesn't work.
Nope.
So there's no
Yeah.
touch-up paint. Now, Rod, to answer your question, yes, waterborne is fine. That should mean nothing to somebody that's buying a Subaru. It should mean nothing to them. I mean, it's a base coat, clear coat. It's just the formulation of how that base coat is made, right?
Yeah.
Fine.
Yep.
That's all good. But when you're driving that car up there, outskirts of Boise, and you go around the bend and you go past the penitentiary and you get up there up towards that lake, and you get a couple rock chips on your Subaru. I was just there a couple weeks ago. So
obviously, we should have had you come into the studio.
and so anyhow, but you get a couple chips. There is no touch-up paint that is water-based that works. Now, for your car being painted, yes, you're 100% right. So our paint is made. It's real automotive paint. Think of PPG, Sherwin-Williams Automotive, Axalta, Oxo Noble, all those people. That's all fine. We use all of them in different ways. But we make the paint so that it dries very fast, that it's very sticky, so it's going to stick in those chips and scratches, and most important, that it's permanent. So yeah, there should be no fear with how our paint works for touch-up because of that's what it was literally invented for.
Right.
So.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's always people are really scared of new technologies. And if you think about paint over time, it's always changed. The clear coats on a waterborne paint job are still solvent based. The clear coat is clear coat. So it is something out there that the word, I think, scares people. And I'm glad that you said that, because the base coat, clear coat, has always been a fear of people when they're touching a paint. Oh no, my car's got two. It doesn't matter. Single stage paint has both the clear in it. And in fact, if you're old like me, there's an old trick we used to do with single stage paint where we actually mix the last couple of coats half and half with paint and clear coat to give it a more of a shine and a depth. And so it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, when you see the way the system works, and let's say you've got a big scratch, 3 inches or something, your eye catches the lack of pigment. That's what it catches. It catches the difference, and it catches the lack of pigment. If you can fill that in with a color, then your eye doesn't catch it. And so it doesn't have to be a special procedure and, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Because it's just filling a scratch. And that's the best part about it, is it turns it from something that's really noticeable and bugs your eye all the time into something that's not noticeable anymore.
Oh yeah, no, I tell people all the time, I say, historically, repairs on cars, whether it's windshield rock chips or it's a dent or it's a paint chip repair or whatever, the auto industry calls it the 6-foot rule, right? For us, I tell people all the time, from a foot away, if you didn't know where a chip was and you're walking around a car, you won't see it from 1 foot away. And to your point, your eye's not drawn to that damage. And so I tell people with 100% confidence that yes, our repairs are going to be like that from a foot away. What's really going to piss you off is the next chip you get. And
well, clearly There's kind of this theme here, especially since you wrote it so boldly on your paper, fear, right?
Right.
So clearly that's a keynote or something. So let's talk about what is the fear that you see detailers and other artisans facing? Because when I think about fear, I think of it as the acronym false evidence already
appearing.
recognized, right? And I think a lot of times we're hesitant to move forward because we're assuming what we don't know, and we're filling in the gaps that we haven't even asked the right questions.
Right. No, my acronym is false evidence appearing real. So we're right on the same lines.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's important for me in my life. It's been important to, quite frankly, be willing to drop my pants down to my ankles and walk down Main Street naked and jump off a cliff if I need to jump off a cliff. And I've done that a couple of times in my life, in pretty big ways. And I've been fortunate enough to have the inner strength and the faith to do that. And what I have found, both of the two main times which are changing things in business, how I ended up on the other side so much better in my life. Mm-hmm. So much better. A little of my story is, I'm from Northern California, the Bay Area, Napa, Sonoma, San Francisco area. And long story short, I had an opportunity when I was 22 years old, 23, graduating from college, to go help start a company with a guy named Jack Nicklaus, a golfer, and the Golden Bear. And so I helped start Nicklaus Golf Equipment Company when I was 22, 23. I moved to Florida, and that was my first jump off the cliff moment, right? I had grown up in the Bay Area. I had graduated college. I got a job as a entry-level manager for a big Fortune 100 company, and I had a really huge opportunity. Went into this guy, Tim Brecky was his name, and I said to Tim, Tim, it was for a company called American Building Maintenance, ABM. You've seen them at every airport and office building around the world. And he was one of their head dudes way back when. And he's retired and now runs a hedge fund. That's how well they did. But anyways, so I went into his office and I said, Tim, I've got this opportunity to go help start a company with Jack Nicklaus, the golfer, and it's in Florida, and I'm not sure what I should do. And this guy told me, and I've never really shared this story too much. And he said, Tony, he goes, if you didn't do it, I'd be disappointed in you. He says, you know what? You'll always have a job here. You're great. And he told me his own personal story, how he went to Hawaii when he was young and started something, blah, blah, blah. And so I did. I packed up everything I owned, paid my own way, and I moved to Florida to help start a company for Jack Nicklaus. And I was the first person hired in customer service, day one of the company. And over 20 years later, I left as the vice president of Nicklaus International Brand Management. A lot of the stuff that has the Golden Bear on it, Coeur d'Alene, there's some Nicklaus courses all around you guys. Yeah. So, I did a lot of stuff for Jack and Barbara. I mean, there's nothing like flying into Augusta on Jack's jet with him, getting off on spot one, walking off that plane. I mean, it's pretty cool stuff. And there's a million things between there. But my point was I was 22 years old and moving to Florida, had nothing, and just packed up me and my girlfriend, and packed up her van and we looked like the Beverly Hillbillies. We literally had a boat towing a boat with a tire hanging off the outboard. I mean, we were bad, but anyways, that was a huge thing. And then a little over 20 years later, Dan McCool founded Dr. Color Chip, and I had worked for Jack, and I literally went into Jack's office and cried and had a tear and said, Jack, this has been such a wonderful ride, and put my arm on him. He put his arm on me and said, it's time for me to go. I've had to let people go over years, and I always would tell people, every roller coaster ride comes to an end, and we have to get off that roller coaster. And I said that to a lot of people with my arm around them. And I was literally saying it to myself at this point. And at the end of the day, Jack understood. He wrote me this really glowing letter. It was really amazing. And, Dan and I had drank a lot of wine together over the years and solved all the world's problems. He had a great product. He was very much like Jack, great family man. And it was really easy transition, but it was also a huge transition from being the face of traveling the world, as Jack's face for a lot of different things in golf, on the golf equipment side. So coming to work with Dan, which at the time was, under $5 million company, kind of like a startup. They didn't even have employee files. And the first week I was there was a sign on the door from the Department of Labor that said you hadn't filled out some form, so this store's closed, or the factory's closed until further notice. And I'm like, what the heck did I do? And that was 15 years ago, right? And it was just some paperwork glitch or something. But anyways, now we're in a 25, 30,000 square foot building. We're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on computer machines, and have literal distribution around the world. And whether it's the Carvanas, the Auto Nations, the Mobile Tech Expos, RoadFS. I mean, hanging out with you guys right now. So I mean, my point is overcoming my fear and being able to just pull my pants down and walk down Main Street naked, right? And so for the detailers, I'm a big believer that I have to find something that inspires me or challenges me, and then I have to make a decision. And I have to make a decision to freaking go for it.
Yeah.
Somebody once told me, this was after the 2008 crash of real estate. My buddy has these properties and had a lot of challenges. And he looks at me and he goes, well, they can't kill me.
That's kind of the thing, is we're always so afraid that, and I think that's in the back of your head. There's this thing that you don't finish that fear. You're like, well, then this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And then you just disappear. And you're like, and then what? Then you're going to walk outside and go, well, I got to do something different. So that's what, I mean, Jody and I have a similar story in 07 and 08 when the crash hit. We worked at a different company and we just walked out the door and said, well, we'll just start our own.
Yeah.
And we made a huge decision because Jody and I didn't get paid
for 9 months.
9 months we went without pay. And our wives were like, okay, they're super supportive. And then, as we look at this now, going into our 17th year and
right,
all the different things we've done, and I go, this is crazy because, we've had some experiences that have really. I got called to Houston, Texas when Vroom was still in business.
Yeah.
And they brought it's a shopping mall. It was a mall that closed down. They had the whole facility. And we went in and I helped them set up the line where they would paint the cars. And we had the machine. They had the $100,000 machine, put the guns in, mixes the paint. They go in and do it, set up 2 booths and this and that. And I was just telling Jody, I'm like, the fact that they're calling me and flying me in to do that is insane. I mean, what? So it's interesting if you just embrace that kind of chaos and say, okay, how are we going to deal with this? What's the best way to deal with this? And how can we make this better as we move forward? That is kind of, to me, is like the epitome of an entrepreneur. It's like you look at every challenge as, okay, how am I going to deal with this? And what am I going to learn from it so that the next time something comes up, I make a better decision.
No, 100%. I mean, I was just writing a note here. My all-time best friend of my life, I hate the guy because he just, we grew up in Napa together, and that's a whole long story. And but I always wanted what he had when I was young. The kid, he had a jet ski and a brand new truck, and anyways, him and I, we're still best friends. I just talked to him a week or so ago. And we used to go to Denny's and have coffee and just talk. And he used to say to me, Tony, the only constant in life is change. Yep. And you better be willing to change. And don't sit in this booth and tell me what you're going to do. Show me what you've done.
Yeah.
And I was 19. He was probably 21, 22 at the time. And I tried to be a sponge. Always be a sponge. Always have an open mind and an open ear. And read the book "Who Moved My Cheese," because the cheese is always moving, baby.
Yeah.
The cheese is always moving.
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
it's good stuff. It really is. But yeah, just. Detailing is a wonderful thing. It's a great trade. You don't have to go spend $100,000 in college to go do it. If you have a passion and if I'm consistent and I'm persistent and I'm professional and I'm genuine and I care, you know what? I'm going to succeed at anything. So if I like doing this, and I think I can make money at it, you can definitely monetize it. And I think, Rod, what you said earlier was so important about, because we landed this big deal, and this group they over probably about 300 car dealerships. They're pretty big, and they do all of the recon for car dealerships. And a little while ago today, one of their guys down here in Florida called me. He's like looking for a painter. So if anybody knows of a painter, I've got a great job opportunity for you. But that aside, they do everything for certain dealerships because the dealerships want to write fewer checks.
Yeah.
So the days of a chip repair guy with his little rag in his pocket and a rim person and a PDR person and a windshield chip person, those days are kind of starting to go the way of the dodo bird, and the smart business people are adding on services. Now, don't be like company X, this other company that they started out doing PDR, and they're a very, very big company. You can figure out who they are. Very, very big company, but they did PDR, and then they started doing interior repair, and they started doing this, and now they're also doing engine diagnostics. I mean, it's like you can't be a jack of all trade because you'll be a master of none. So pick enough disciplines that are money-making disciplines and high profit margin disciplines that you can make money at, and show up. 80% of life is showing up. So show up to the car show event. Show up to an auto spa, which I'm up there in Boise. After the winter's, they're so busy. You go talk to the owner and say, "Look, I'll give you 20% of anything I do." It's free money for them. Free money. And an auto spa has, let's just 100 cars. I know they have more. Say 100 cars. Their close rate's going to be at least 15%. You're going to do 15 cars in about a 4-hour period. I mean, you can see how you can monetize it. So,
for sure.
So at the end of the day, show up, and whatever I do, be consciously aware and be present in the moment.
Yes, sir.
Dude,
absolutely.
I love
That's
that.
perfect.
This has been such an amazing conversation. I mean, talking about paint chips and fear and mindset and showing up, dude. I just love that because it has real application to anybody in business, right? And I think one of the challenges is that a lot of our customers, our mutual customers, they just want to be artisans, and they miss the opportunity to be businessmen who are artisans and can really provide a great service, right? And learning how to do the two, it takes the discipline.
Yeah,
right?
No, it does.
Yeah,
and we don't have to be greedy. We don't have to be Gordon Gekko. From Wall Street back in the day. We don't have to be greedy. I'm not greedy, at all. I mean, if anything, I've found in life, the more I give, I get so much more. And I'm not trying to be greedy. Yes, we do color chip, and I look at other options and ideas and ways to do things for sure. But if we're not saying you have to be some flying a private jet guy. I'm just saying that if I apply myself and show up a little bit and think of, like you said, Rod, more than just one thing to make money, and using your software to do it will make you even more efficient, right? So, now you're efficient, and the world we live in today, we have to be efficient. It's a win-win for everybody.
Yep, no, absolutely.
Well, we want to thank you for giving us your time. Guys, absolutely. If you are thinking or considering at all expanding your business, you really ought to talk to Tony and his team. They have a phenomenal product. They have phenomenal training. They have phenomenal support. And these guys are there for you. Dude, I'm so grateful for this opportunity because I've wanted to have you on the show.
Yeah, I've wanted to be on it forever.
Such a long time. And I'm like, I got to call him.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad I did. Thank you so much for your time. I learning some of your backstory was really fascinating.
Yeah,
too,
absolutely. So yeah, guys, go out and follow the Dr. Color Chip stuff. Go out there and look at it. And if you get an opportunity, if it's not, if it's a once a year thing at MTE, you're there. Like you said, you got your packs in the back and they can see it. Go out and talk to some people that use it.
Go follow Jamie Gonzalez.
Jamie Gonzalez.
He's always doing little tutorials, and that guy is a master, man.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot of people. People. There's a lot of people that we have that are more than happy. I have I can email anybody a recommendations list of commercial users that are either PDR people, detailers, or just service dealerships. I can email that to anybody, and those people from Canada to California to Florida, they will talk to you. They'll help you. I have that, and email me Tony@drcolorchip.com, or just go onto our website, drcolorchip.com. And there's a commercial section. You click on that and send an inquiry. I'll reach out to you. But no, we're more than happy. And we have a lot of people like Jamie. Jamie's above most, but we have a lot of people like him that are more than happy to do that. So
that's awesome. And he's down to earth. You can talk to any of these guys.
He's such a good dude.
Yeah.
Man. So,
Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a great conversation, and we will have more guests.
Yeah, dude.
Week.
Can you believe it? We're moving into June.
God.
It's hard to believe.
I can't believe we're already moving into June.
June, and it's going to be crazy busy. So anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen,
for you being with us. Thank you guys for tapping in. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And we will check you same time, same bat channel just next week. See ya.
Thank you, gentlemen. Cheers.